Put the kettle on. It's time for some F&T. Here's your host, Kirsten Gentle.
Welcome to FTMA's F&T Time, a podcast and video series aimed at keeping the industry connected and updated. Welcome to another F&T Time podcast, where we dive deep into the pressing issues and relevant developments affecting our industry. In this episode, we turn our attention to an increasingly critical topic of energy management. Amidst rising energy costs in a volatile market, understanding how to harness energy effectively has never been more vital for businesses looking to save money. We're excited to talk with Christopher Dean, the CEO of Choice Energy, whose team has been instrumental in helping our members navigate the complexities of energy usage and costs. Choice Energy has consistently demonstrated a commitment to supporting our members with tailored solutions that not only address immediate concerns, but also paves the way for long-term savings and sustainability. During today's discussion, we will explore the current energy landscape, including the challenges faced by companies as they strive to reduce their expenses, as well as improve their carbon footprint. We will also reflect on the successful initiatives and innovative approaches that Choice has developed to support our members as they grapple with their energy efficiency. We hope this discussion will help listeners gain a clearer understanding of the energy solutions available, what the future markets look like, and how, most importantly, you can save money. This isn't just about installing solar, but ensuring that you're receiving the best energy rates possible, which in itself can save your business tens of thousands of dollars. Please join me in welcoming Christopher Dean as he gives some exciting news about how our members can benefit from some Choice Energy initiatives in September. So today we're here with Christopher Dean, the CEO of Choice Energy, who's going to have some exciting news. So welcome along, Chris.
Thanks, Kirsten. Good to chat to you again.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to have Choice Energy working with our members. So Chris, can you just explain to our listeners, who is Choice Energy and what are you doing to help our members?
Yeah, no problems. So we help FTM members and other industries with their energy. It's a bit of a taboo subject. Most people sort of put their head in the sand because it's one of those things that you just have to pay. But with the rate that energy goes up, it's becoming more and more important for businesses to look at these outgoings on their P&L. The thing with getting cheaper power is it's the same quality. So, if you go to the shops and get cheaper eggs, you're getting a different type of egg. What we want to do is get businesses the same amount of electricity, but get them to pay less. And we do that through two functions. One function is better energy procurement. So we've got an energy broking team. There's around 20 sitting here with us in Melbourne. We help all across the country. And what we do is a blind tender where we get energy consumption and we tender it out to different retailers, up to 19 retailers at the moment. And we just get the best rates put forward, and then we help members choose the best retailer to go with. Sometimes it's not always the cheapest one. They might be interested in green energy, for example. So you want to spend less money on the power you buy and then use less money. And the way we do that is through commercial solar installs. So we've helped the likes of BB Truss and Sunshine, Mitre 10 up in the Sunshine Coast there, install large solar arrays. And that helps the business create power on site. And you can use that power instead of buying it off the grid. So they're the two ways to spend less money. One is better buying power, and the other is generating your own power wholesale effectively.
And the beauty of going through you, it's not like compare the pair or whatever it's called, where you go on and then all of a sudden you are inundated by, 20-odd people. You just go through Choice and people just, as you said, a blind tender so they don't get inundated by everyone wanting to help them.
That's right. You'll build a relationship with one person here. So, we're an Australian company. We've been around for 11 years now. Our first ever employee is still with us. So if you're dealing with a Deanne or a Dave Perry, they'll work with you every year when your energy contracts come up. BB Truss were dealing with Lachlan McGee about 8 years ago on one of their first installs. I think we're on their third solar install at the moment. And they're still dealing with Lachlan. We've got really low staff turnover. It's not a big call centre. None of it's offshored. There's a saying in the country, which is you don't have to say it, but if you say it, you've got to do it. And we've kind of set up that as one of our leading principles. Say do, don't say it, but if you do, you've got to do it and follow through. And I think that really works well with sort of FTMA members. That's the way they tend to run their businesses from what I can tell.
Yep, no, it's fantastic. So, you have to be living under a rock not to, I think, every day on the media somewhere they're talking about the increased cost of living and the energy increases. So can you give an overview of what the current national electricity market is and maybe touch on what are we looking at for future energy markets briefly?
Yeah, sure. Well, cost of living with the inflation that we've had at the moment, it's hard to get away from it. Most members probably would have heard that the government are actually going to give $300 to every Australian to go towards their electricity bills. That's how much of a crisis we're in. Unfortunately, the $300 won't touch the surface, especially if you're running a business that might spend $10, $20, or $30,000 on electricity. If you're to take a long view on power, the reason power goes up is due to generation coming offline. So all of your big power stations out in Latrobe Valley or Clyde in Queensland, these are decades old, 50, 60 years old. And it's not so much that the greenies are trying to shut them down. The amount of money it costs to maintain these old power stations makes them unprofitable. And there is a list of power stations coming offline between now and 2050. And every time one of these power stations come offline, there's a spike in the cost of power. And the new generation coming online, it happens to be clean and green and renewable. But the issue with renewable generation is solar only works during the day when the sun shines and wind when the wind blows. So it's not really fixing our baseload power, which is one of the issues. So we do see periods where power comes down wholesale. We're in a 6-week cycle of power coming down at the moment, but long term, the cost of power, wholesale power would have doubled if we looked maybe 36 months ago. So this is why we want to, hedge against buying power off the grid. And by doing that, you want to buy as little as you can. And that's why using a strategy with solar in combination with buying your power better is what we recommend.
And so there's rebates out there from the government, but in Lachlan's presentation to members last week on the webinar, he spoke about those rebates are slowly going to be reducing. So is that going to reduce dramatically?
They expire in 2030.
So completely, yep.
Completely, yep. So to zero. And it's a linear reduction each year between now and then. So roughly 20% per year between now and the end of the decade. So, the next year or two is the highest you're going to see these government rebates before they disappear. Once they go, solar, we believe, will still stack up because the cost of power is increasing on an average of 8 or 9% per year since the year 2000. So the payback on solar when I started in the industry in around 2010 was maybe a 7 or 8 year payback. Now you're somewhere between 2 and 4 depending on your energy rates, and it's only getting better with the cost of power going up. The time's right now to look at it if it sort of suits your business. So solar isn't for all businesses. You need to have the right roof, the right usage pattern. So what I mean by that, if you use a lot of your power like a dairy farm at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., well, the sun's shining at best from sort of 10 till 4 for solar. But a lot of timber and truss manufacturing businesses tend to use their power from 7 or 8 in the morning till maybe 3 or 4 p.m. During daylight hours. So that's why we do a lot of work in this industry, because it's quite complementary of the sun shining.
Yep. And is there also a difference in the quality? I mean, compared to people knocking on your door saying, hey, we want to install solars, compared to the product that you provide, it's important for, I suppose, good business to put in good quality solar panels?
Yeah, it's not just the panel. So obviously there's hundreds of manufacturers of solar panels worldwide, but the way it gets installed as well. So we've got an in-house installation team, so our own sparkies, our own project managers. We run all of the jobs ourselves. We see some photos of installations that are quite horrifying. To be honest, panels need to face a certain way. But at the end of the day, a business doesn't need to get too interested in the tech. The reason you'll go solar is to spend less money. And the one thing that our business does that other solar companies don't do is we actually underwrite the savings. So if we, to tie this back to the say-do, if we sit down and we give projected savings, we'll actually have a money back guarantee if we don't get within 20% of those savings. So Choice Energy will underwrite our promises. And that's the big difference, because if I was to name 3 different solar panel brands, even yourself, Kirsten, you might roll your eyes because they're not going to mean anything to you. But if I say, hey, you'll save 10 grand a year on your bills, that's why you're going to go solar. But we don't want you just to take a punt on us. We'll actually put our money where our mouth is. And that's been the difference with a lot of members already choosing to work with us. We're not the cheap and nasties out there. We're the quality supplier, and it costs what it costs to do it properly. And we'll underwrite that. And it'll always be way less than the cost of electricity through a retailer.
Yep, and over the years, I've had so many members come back to me. You mentioned Jeff and Tanya at BB, and Clive and Doug in their time at MB Prefab. MB Prefab. And you've got a case study that you could talk about maybe in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, well, so the most recent client that we've helped is Rudiger Prefab. So they've installed a 15 kilowatt solar, which is
in South Australia for members listening.
Yeah, in SA. So we're in SA, we're in WA, and then all up the eastern seaboard there. A 15 kilowatt solar system, and the expected lifetime savings $300,000. So it's a few bob there, and the thing is the equipment works the same, the lights work the same. It's all set up behind the meter, so once the panels are on your roof, you forget about them. You don't see it. BB Trust was a good example because it's not only the solar that we've helped, we help them buy their power every year. So, once you effectively get an account manager at Choice Energy, you might get a letter from your retailer about a contract coming up or rates coming up. You just click forward, you send it to, your account manager, and then we'll deal with your retailer. We'll deal with the other retailers to keep them accountable and make sure that you still got the best prices out there. And the best thing is we get rewarded by retailers financially for the energy broking service. So effectively, fact checking your rates and speaking to us, you're not paying us a fee for this sort of consultancy. We get remunerated from the retailers when we successfully switch you over. So it's zero risk speaking to us on that front.
Yeah, and Christine Flanagan from Kelco was another one. I think you've got a story coming up about how great they've done.
Yeah, so Kelco, so I think it's around 50% were able to reduce their bills from putting solar on. So, if you look at your P&L, which a lot of businesses are doing at the moment from FY24, and you look at that electricity line item, well, imagine halving that. The upside, the way we do solar, we don't necessarily come to you and say spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands on solar. We set it up using finance arrangements where your savings on electricity can actually buy the system for you. So one example of how that might work is you might have a $2,000 electricity bill. We'll install solar, which will save you half. So let's say it saves you $1,000. You can then use those savings to pay off the system. So you actually haven't even had to put your hand in your pocket to outlay for the system. And that's typically how most of the businesses will fund solar. Just use that electricity line item. So money you already spend on power to buy the solar system. Don't come up with a solar budget. So, some businesses will tell me that they've got to buy some new equipment, some new saws, some new mills, and they've got all this capex and all this investing they've got to do. Well, that really shouldn't get in the way of solar, because while you're looking at all those purchases, you're still paying a monthly electricity bill.
Yeah.
So buy solar like you buy power, because at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's just kilowatt hours of power. So if you can use that same outgoing. So just a bit of an analogy with a mortgage. A lot of homeowners will get a split mortgage where you might put half on a fixed rate and half on a variable. Well, you could have half your power from solar and then half from the grid. And the beauty is that half that you've got from solar, it's self-funded because it's saving you the money that it needed to pay itself off.
So if people don't own their factories, is it still worth them approaching their landlords to look at this?
Yeah, I'd almost recommend speaking with us first to see if it is a viable business case. So it isn't for everyone. There might be a certain tariff you're on that makes it not worthwhile for you, for example, or you might not have the best roof orientation. But if we run a quick business case and say, solar's going to save me 10 grand per year, then you go to your landlord and say, hey, I've got X amount of years left on my lease. I've been speaking with Choice Energy. There's a government grant and I can get a solar system that's going to save me 10 grand. It's going to help me run my business better. We have got a document that helps business owners do that. So it's got information on our insurance, indemnity insurance, which covers any roof issues. You can also make good the roof. So if you move, you could take the equipment with you. So without getting too technical, you've got screws on your roof. We pull out the existing screw. We put on a bracket. The screw goes back in. Then the panels go on the bracket. If you decided to move, we take the panel off, we take the bracket off, we put the screw back in. So it's not a permanent change to the infrastructure of the roof. Around 50% of commercial and industrial buildings in Australia are leased. So sure, the early adopters were building owners, but really the sun doesn't care if you own the building or not, and you still pay an electricity bill if you own the building or not. Where I wouldn't recommend looking at solar if I rented was if I've only got, say, 2 years left on a lease. I mentioned before, say, 2 to 4 year payback. But if you've got, say, a 4 or a 5 year view to be in the building, absolutely. You also wouldn't have to take the system with you. There could be options where the new tenant comes in, it's just power in that building. You could transfer it to the landlord or the new tenant down the line as well.
That's amazing. So, Chris, you came to me with a great offer, and I think that, for F&T listeners out there, the offer was that if FTMA gets their members to upload their power bills through the month of September, we would get a rebate as an association. But as FTMA always does, we put our members first and went back to you to say, nope, what can you do for our members if they do it? So would you like to tell everyone what the program for September is?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's great working in the FTMA, because it's good to work with organisations that do put their members first. So Choice Energy are going to pay for one of your members' monthly electricity bills. So through September, everybody who submits a bill for a review, so it's a no obligation free review, will go into a draw, and it's guaranteed that we will pay out on one of those. So it'll be selected by random. So everyone who just gets their bills looked at, you probably get your bills looked at once a year anyway by a retailer, so it's no different to that. We'll have a look at those bills. We could see if there's a solar business case. If you're not interested in solar or have solar, we could just review your bill to see if there's a better energy rate out there. And even if we find you a better energy rate, you could still decide not to take it. So there's zero obligation. Just submit your bill and you'll go into the draw, and then we will pick at random one bill to pay in full for you. So if you've got a 5 or 10 grand bill, that could be pretty handy. But what I'm really excited about is being able to save your members far more than that 5 or 10 grand across the group in September as well.
Well, that's fantastic. We were doing the lucky members draw. Well, this is another lucky members draw. All you need to do is upload your electricity bill. All the details will be in FTMA News, and we'll follow up and send it to members as well. So I just think it's a great opportunity. And for listeners out there, I really have always believed in choice, to the point that a few of my friends who run businesses outside of the industry have used them to put in solar systems. And that was, I think Shane did it 7 years or 8 years ago, and he's a strawberry grower and he's still stoked with what yous have done. So it's really good to promote businesses that deliver to members and support them all the way through, and that's what we want to look for.
Yeah, that's great. I think we first started talking and doing some work together would have been as far back as maybe 2015 or 2016. So it's not a new relationship. We've been helping members for almost a decade now. So and looking forward to helping far more of you. Or we may have spoken to you in the past and energy slipped off the radar. You've got zero downside for flicking a bill over this September, and let's see what we can do for you.
No, it's fantastic. So look, thanks for joining us today, Chris. We'll send out all the information to our members, and I look forward to seeing who wins the draw. And as I said, it's in everyone's best interest just to upload and check it anyway, because you could just save money on getting the best provider there is. So that's great news.
I've enjoyed the chat, Kirsten. Good on you.
No worries. Thanks very much, Chris.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the F&T Time Podcast. We appreciate Chris for sharing his invaluable insights into energy management and the impactful work that Choice Energy is doing for the FTMA members. Remember that September is an exciting month for FTMA members, as there's a special deal on the table. By simply uploading your energy bill, you stand a chance to have your entire electricity bill paid for the month. So don't miss out on this opportunity to save money while also receiving some expert guidance on energy efficiency that also could save your business. As always, we encourage our members to reach out with any questions or for further assistance. Stay tuned for our next episode, and thank you for being part of the F&T community.